We're here again. We're here again. Novak Djokovic versus Jannik Sinner. This is going to be the third meeting between the two in less than 2 months. I mean, it's incredible. The last time they played was less than a week ago in the final of the 2023 ATP Finals. Djokovic coming out victorious in straight sets. Now they meet in yet another significant clash, this time in the semi-finals of the Davis Cup. Djokovic representing Serbia and Jannik Sinner representing Italy, and they most likely will play the second match of the day. So the first match will be a singles match. We don't know obviously what's going to happen there, and the second match will be important because Sinner or Djokovic will either need to win it to equal things up and then take it into a deciding doubles, or they'll need to win to secure automatic qualification. Because if, for example, Serbia have won the first match, Djokovic then beats Sinner, they're through to the final and they'll face Australia, who have just qualified today, beating Finland. It's also indoors like it was the ATP Finals, and we do have to remember that Sinner did beat Djokovic in the round robin about 2 weeks ago now in Turin. So yeah, it's 1-1 in the last, say, 2 weeks between the two, but Djokovic has the advantage after winning the most important match of that tournament in the final, straight setting him, routining him in the final as well. Looked extremely impressive, recorded the highest tennis insight score, which is an overall performance out of 10. There's lots of different calculations that go into it, and he was a 9.75, which is the best score of the year. So whether you agree that he was playing the best tennis of the year is up to you, right, in terms of eye test. But what the stats and the metrics brought out in the wash was Djokovic played the best level of tennis we've seen this year in that final. So yeah, Sinner unfortunately couldn't match that and ended up losing 6-3, 6-3. Before we get into it, though, remember to that like button. Do subscribe if you're new, and do the rating review if you're listening in our podcast platform. As always, we're going to break it down preview and prediction-wise. We're going to, first of all, talk a little bit about their form recently. And I'm mainly just going to talk about how Djokovic looked against Norrie in his match against Great Britain, and he beat him 6-4, 6-4. Jannik Sinner beat Griekspoor 7-6, 6-1, if I'm not mistaken, from Netherlands. It is indoors. The courts are very quick, like they were in Turin as well. So it's similar conditions. There's the difference in that, the crowd is very boisterous, and they're going to have, it will be a 50-50 crowd. It's in Spain, so it's not in Italy and it's not in Serbia. You could argue there'll probably be more Italian fans there just because of proximity, but that doesn't really matter when it comes to Djokovic, because we saw in Turin when the crowd was completely for the opponent, he tends to just use the negative energy that he's getting from the crowd and the boos and the whistles, and he just converts that into complete positive competitive energy that fuels him to becoming the elite competitor and the best competitor, I think, that we've ever seen on a tennis court. So look, I mean, up here, mentality wise, he's second to none. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then I'll also briefly discuss how the final went, and how that might then affect this match, how the match is going to play out, and then ultimately give you guys my predictions. So when it comes to Novak Djokovic and how he looked against Cam Norrie, his forehand in the last few weeks has been the biggest that I've seen maybe ever in his career. I just think he is hitting it absolutely huge. I mean, the confidence that he has on that stroke is through the roof right now. He is redlining. I think he's redlining at the moment on that forehand. Honestly, it's phenomenal. The amount of winners that he's hitting on that forehand side. And normally you'd say he'd go big cross court, and he would go line and mainly only go line when he was able to attack inside the baseline. He's been hitting winners, and yes, I know the courts are quick, but he's still hitting a lot of winners down the line on the forehand behind the baseline at times, which is just ridiculous. He's going big on that side, and he's generating some serious power through the court and penetration through it, and it's very, very tough for opponents at the moment because his backhand is super reliable, as we know, and it's arguably the best two-hander ever. And when the forehand is redlining like this, it's extremely tough to know what to do it as an opponent. Like, what do you do? Because he's defending really well on the stretch, even on these super fast hard courts indoors. and then he's getting himself to neutral really quickly and almost with ease, and then he's able to transition to attack so quickly. As an opponent, it's disheartening, and you don't know what to do. And on return, of course, he's so dangerous. He's always looking to return and break you, and he's the best returner ever. His serve has been really high in terms of level. I guess the only thing you can potentially level against him when it comes to serve is during the ATP finals. There were matches when the first serve percentage was a little bit low. And I don't think the second serve is massive. I don't think it's particularly hurtful. It is definitely serviceable. I don't think people take advantage of it a huge amount. I think Sinner in the round robin match managed to take advantage of it to some degree, and that's mainly because he was getting a look at a lot of second serves from Djokovic, and so it just put more pressure on the second serve, because when you make less first serves, there's then more importance on making that second serve, for one, and two, you know that okay, this second serve is important. But it is a balancing act, because you go for too much on the second serve, you double fault, it then becomes an issue, and doubts start creeping in. So maybe went a little bit safer on his second serves in that round robin match. Djokovic, because his first serve percentage was so low, well, it definitely left him more susceptible to some really big returns from the Italian. And that could be the case, for example, in this match, if the same scenario plays out. But serving wise, in the final, he was phenomenal. A lot of aces, a lot of unreturnables. I think it was it was over 50% of unreturned serves on his first serve, which is just pretty incredible, in honesty, for someone like Djokovic. You wouldn't normally attribute Novak Djokovic with those types of stats on serve. You would attribute someone like Milos Raonic, or an Opelka, or an Isner, or a Kyrgios, Tsitsipas, or Berrettini. Djokovic, in the past, that's not what you would be thinking. But nowadays, he's evolved his game so well for longevity that it's just meant all the tools that he needs to play for a long time, win easier points on his first serve, win points quicker in rallies, be able to shorten the points with the serve, with the forehand, be more aggressive, come to the net more. The net game, again, improved so much. It's now incredibly solid. I mean, the guy is a genius, and this match really comes down to Novak Djokovic and his level. If his level is the level that we saw in that final of Turin, Sinner can't beat him, I'm being honest. If it's the level that he showed in the round robin match, Sinner can beat him. It's still not going to be easy, but he can beat him. If it's somewhere in between, Sinner has a chance, definitely. But if it's that level, that 9.75 we were talking about earlier, no one's beating him. No one. And there's a reason why he's only lost twice on hard courts this year. His level's been very high on this surface. And with the added motivation of playing for Serbia, going on to win the Davis Cup, I think if he wins the Davis Cup, he said this would be his best year, in his opinion anyway. I think his 2015 year might have something to say about it. But, he is playing some incredible tennis right now. And it's been a monumental year. For Jannik Sinner, there's a few things that I saw against Griekspoor. One, a real mental toughness and grit in that first set. Griekspoor was playing some really good tennis, honestly. He got to a tiebreaker and Sinner came out clutch, which is a real positive. Second set, he cleaned up, bread sticking him. That was impressive. Just got through it nicely. Griekspoor is very dangerous, especially on these types of courts. He can play aggressive tennis. Not much difference from how Sinner's been playing recently. Some really good serving, and I think his returning was actually a highlight against Griekspoor. I thought if he can return like that against Djokovic, I was a little bit disappointed with how he returned against Djokovic in the final. Djokovic did serve really well, so that was the majority of the reason why Sinner wasn't able to be as effective on return in that final. But there was a small percentage of points where I think he could have done better on return, and they were slim pickings, but they were there nonetheless, right? They were there for him to at least do a little bit better on. I think against Griekspoor, he showed some really impressive returning, a lot of return winners, or at least returns that were putting Griekspoor on the back foot straight away. And Griekspoor has a pretty big serve, in honesty. Now, I don't think he hits his spots as well as Djokovic, or has as much skill maybe and variety as the serve, but he's no slouch on serve. So that was a real positive, I think, for Sinner, and he was hitting the forehand and backhand really well. In terms of how it plays out, well, what actually came to pass in the final was Djokovic changing tactic from that round robin match where he was happy to battle with Sinner in the ad exchange on the ad court, and against 99.9% of players, he will just dominate that ad court exchange on the backhand to backhand or into out forehand to backhand and vice versa. Again, Sinner is a bit different because the backhand's super solid. His forehand is definitely the more dangerous weapon because it can be extremely explosive, but it can also be more error prone. And Djokovic backed himself from the forehand to forehand and also went line with the backhand more in the final. And he gained a lot of success against Sinner because of it. 13 errors from Sinner on that forehand in that final. Going to definitely have to tighten up on that forehand side. He's going to have to play out of his skin, no doubt, but I think he's going to have to play the percentages a bit more. In the final, he got frustrated. He started trying to go for too much too soon, too big too soon. In the round robin, I thought he had more patience. Again, a lot of this is going to be down to how Djokovic plays and his level, in honesty. But if Sinner wants to have a chance, then he's going to have to max out. He's going to have to redline on the forehand, no doubt. And I think he's going to have to serve extremely well and try and anticipate that Djokovic serve. He'll have the advantage of playing Djokovic, twice in the last week and a half going into this match and knowing that, okay, well, it's 1-1. Djokovic made adjustments in the round robin and beat Sinner. Can Sinner similarly make adjustments from that final and beat Djokovic in this match? He's a lot younger, doesn't have the experience and maybe IQ that Djokovic has at the moment, but that's not to say he can't do it. So the adjustments to be made, I think, is trying to make sure that he's smarter in the rallies, and depth is going to be key. Djokovic killed him with depth in the final. Sinner needs to be the one being proactive, and going for more doesn't necessarily mean going for more in terms of pace. It can also mean depth, and I think he needs to maybe look at that a little bit in this final because he got bullied a little bit in the baseline exchanges in that final. He wasn't really able to dictate as he would have liked and as he was able to in that round robin match. He was on the back foot a lot of the time, and that's not where he would have liked to have been in that final. And Djokovic kept on coming forward and coming onto him, and it's uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable for anyone. So that's something that he's going to have to look out for and be very aware of, I think. The quality of the ground stroke, not just how cleanly he's hitting it, how hard he's hitting the ball, but is he hitting with enough depth? And then also trying to be smart against Djokovic. Sometimes Sinner can be a little bit one-paced, and one thing that Djokovic does really well is that he is able to have a little bit of variation. That doesn't necessarily mean slicing. It just means being able to hit your forehand or backhand in different ways, whether that be a flatter forehand, for example, that goes cross-court to rush the opponent, or whether it's a heavier topspin forehand that drags out the opponent with an angle, whether it's a loopy forehand down the middle defensively, again with good depth, or whether you go, flattered down the line with the forehand. There's loads of different ways that you can change it up in terms of rhythm, in terms of spin, in terms of speed. And, I think depth is something that's almost a non-negotiable unless you're going to hit good angles. And that is definitely a tactic because Sinner is pretty good at the net as well. I don't think he was able to come forward as much because he was on the back foot so much in that final to the net. But he will be looking and should be looking to come forward to the net more because in the round robin match, he came to the net and he was pretty effective, I thought. I thought he was very effective, actually, for the most part, at the net against Djokovic, who is extremely good at defending when people come to the net. But Sinner's hands are pretty natural, I would say. He's got natural hands at the net. And he's very athletic, and for the most part, his approach shots are bang on in terms of quality, but he needs to be careful because a lot of the time he was approaching the Djokovic forehand thinking that was the weaker side, but in the last few weeks, it hasn't been the weaker side. It's actually been very, very strong. I'm not saying that he should just approach the backhand, but he needs to be a bit adventurous with those approaches, and he'll need to put a little bit more on them. Not necessarily in pace, but just hit slightly close to the lines. Give himself enough margin that he's happy, but also he can't go safe, because if he goes safe on the approach, he's going to get passed or lobbed. It's just inevitable when it comes to someone like Djokovic. In terms of a prediction, I mean, I can't see Djokovic losing this, in all honesty. So I'm going to go for Djokovic. I'll go for 3 sets. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins in straight sets. I just think for Jannik Sinner, he won't be far off again. I just think it's going to be too soon to make adjustments for one. And the way that Djokovic is playing right now, it's in his hands. So if his level drops, Sinner definitely has he definitely has a chance, and he could definitely win. But if Djokovic plays the level of that ATP Finals final, I just don't see. I've never seen Sinner play that level. At the ATP Finals was the best level I've seen from him, but it wasn't the Djokovic level that we saw in that final. It wasn't near to that. So let's see. Maybe he has another gear to go up, potentially, that I haven't seen. But for Djokovic, as I said, it's up to him, really. If he turns up and he plays that level, I don't see him losing. So let me know in the comment section below your thoughts. Thank you very much, guys. Stay safe and well, and we'll see you in the next video.